System of Rice Intensification. About this course. The System of Rice Intensification, known by its acronym SRI, is gaining popularity among paddy farmers in several states. This method has the potential to improve productivity of land, capital, water, and labor simultaneously. This system, developed in Madagascar in the 1980s, has been tried successfully in 25 countries across the world. SRI is a system of growing rice which involves principles that are at times radically different from the traditional ways of growing rice. It involves planting of single and young seedlings with care, instead of conventional method of multiple and mature seedlings from the nursery. SRI spaces rice plants more widely and does not depend on continuous flooding of rice fields. It uses lesser seed, chemical inputs, and promotes soil biotic activities in and around the root zone due to liberal applications of compost and weeding with a rotating hoe that aerates the soil. These changed practices with low inputs lead to enhanced yields with considerable savings of inputs, especially the water, which is becoming scarce over the years. Module 1. Rice production scenario in India and water and irrigated rice. At the end of this module, we will understand rice production scenario in India, SRI history, water and irrigated rice, per capita water availability in selected countries. Lesson 1. Rice production scenario in India. Rice is the staple food for more than half of the world's population and plays a pivotal role in food security of many countries. More than 90% of the global production and consumption of rice is in Asia. As for India, rice is not only a food commodity but also a source of foreign exchange, earning about 11,000 crores annually. Since attaining independence in 1947, India has witnessed a remarkable progress in rice production. There has been 1.5 times increase in the area from 30 to 44 million hectares. The productivity increased 3 times from 700 kgs per hectare to 2,000 kilograms per hectare, and the total annual rice production of the country has increased more than 4 times from 22 million tons to 90 million tons. Growth trends in rice area, production and productivity during the last 5.5 decades are given in Table 1. Table 1. Growth trends. Compound growth rate percentage of rice area, production productivity and area under irrigation during the period 1950-51 to 2004-2005. Currently, mainstream technological options to improve rice production focus mainly on selection of varieties, introduction of improved seeds, including genetically engineered and high-yielding varieties, crop nutrition, and weed, pest, and disease control. Interestingly, System of Rice Intensification (SRI) is an alternative that does not depend on such agronomic tactics. This all-encompassing system complements these requirements. Lesson 2. SRI history. The System of Rice Intensification was developed in Madagascar and popularized in the 1980s by Henri de Laulanie, a French Jesuit priest. Developed quite experimentally and inductively, SRI is not a standardized technological method. More importantly, it is a methodology for comprehensively managing resources, changing the way land, seeds, water, nutrients, and human labor are used. SRI is an amalgamation of multiple beneficial practices that Father de Laulanie observed. Based on the current rate of population growth, 1.4%, and per capita consumption, 215 to 230 grams per day, the projected demand for rice by 2025 would be around 130 metric tons respectively. The rice production has to be invariably enhanced by more than 2 metric tons annually to meet the future requirements. The projected demand has to be met in the background of declining land and water resource scarcity of labor and costly inputs, which are making rice cultivation too expensive. Reducing the cost of cultivation and making rice cultivation more profitable to the farmers is the need of the hour. Among these constraints, water scarcity will pose a major threat to rice cultivation, and all-out efforts are needed to enhance water productivity and to ensure production of more rice crop from every drop of water. Lesson 3. Water and irrigated rice. Irrigated rice occupies 50% area and contributes nearly 70% to total rice production of the country, with an average yield of 3.1 ton per hectare. India's food security largely depends on irrigated rice, which consumes nearly 50 to 60% of our finite fresh water resources. Flooded rice requires 900 to 2250 millimeters of water, average 1500 millimeters, depending on the water management, soil, and climatic factors. It is estimated that rice needs about 3000 to 5000 liters of water to produce 1 kg of grain, which is 3 to 5 times more than for other cereals like wheat, corn, etc. The expenditure towards water alone for 20 to 30% of the total variable cost of rice production. Table 2. Average water requirement of irrigated rice. Lesson 4. Per capita water availability in selected countries. There is growing awareness about the need to optimize water use in rice production, which will have far-reaching effects. At constant level of fresh water availability, per capita supply of water is decreasing progressively with time. Besides, competing demands for water from industrial and urban sectors and the predicted climate changes are likely to further accentuate the impending water crisis, more so for rice production, which warrant change in the practices adopted for rice cultivation. Water is going to be most critical input in the future for agriculture in general and rice cultivation in particular. Per capita water availability has dwindled from 5.3 into 10 cube m cube per year in 1955 to 2.5 into 10 cube m cube per year in 1990 and is expected to further shrink to 1.5 into 10 cube m cube per year by 2025. See Figure 1. Share of water for agriculture is likely to drastically go down from 90% to less than 60%. Rice cultivation has traditionally been in water-impounded paddies, and hence rice has come to be known as water-loving crop. The ability of rice to survive and grow under water-submerged soil and effective weed management through standing water have further given credence to this view. Hence, water productivity in rice cultivation has been the lowest. Fortunately, this aspect of rice cultivation is undergoing radical changes and technologies are being aggressively developed for more water-productive cultivation practices. System of Rice Intensification, SRI, direct seeding under puddled soil, alternate wetting and drying are some of these practices. Reducing crop duration without affecting productivity is another approach. A quote from Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh's inaugural address at International Rice Congress during October 2006. Rice grown under irrigated condition is facing the threat of water shortage. This is forcing a paradigm shift towards maximizing output per unit of water instead of per unit of land. Can we come out with technologies that convince farmers to use less water in rice production without compromising on returns? This is yet another challenge for our scientists and technologists. It's a clear message for all rice workers to increase water productivity in rice cultivation. For improving productivity of irrigated water in wetland rice cultivation, the following 3 approaches are suggested. Enhancing the water supply, conservation of water, increasing crop and water productivity. Module 2. SRI Principles and Practices. At the end of this module, we will understand what is System of Rice Intensification and water-saving potential of SRI, outline of SRI practice and principles of SRI, what constitutes SRI and what not to do, principle and corresponding practices of SRI. SRI hexagon. What is the effect of SRI on rice plants? Lesson 1. What is System of Rice Intensification and water saving potential of SRI? System of Rice Intensification. The System of Rice Intensification, known by its acronym SRI, is gaining popularity among paddy farmers in several states. This method has the potential to improve productivity of land, capital, water, and labor simultaneously. This system, developed in Madagascar in the 1980s, has been tried successfully in 25 countries across the world. SRI is a system of growing rice which involves principles that are at times radically different from the traditional ways of growing rice. It involves planting of single and young seedlings with care instead of conventional method of multiple and mature seedlings from the nursery. SRI spaces rice plants more widely and does not depend on continuous flooding of rice fields. It uses lesser seed, chemical inputs, and promotes soil biotic activities in and around the root zone due to liberal applications of compost and weeding with a rotating hoe that aerates the soil. These changed practices with lower inputs lead to enhanced yields with considerable savings of inputs, especially the water, which is becoming scarce over the years. Water saving potential of SRI. The future of countries' rice production will depend heavily on developing and adopting strategies and practices that use irrigation water efficiently at the farm level. SRI is one such method which has a potential to produce more rice with less water. Until 1990, the impression was that rice yields better only under flooded conditions. Recent reports from International Water Management Institute Colombo, however, suggest that continuous submergence is not essential for obtaining higher rice yields. Further, experiences from studies on SRI in China and Sri Lanka during the last decade have conclusively demonstrated that unflooded soil is ideal for rice plant to grow well and yield better than in the conventional method of continuous shallow submergence. SRI, which is relatively a new methodology, involves a set of practices that integrate management of plant, soil, water, and nutrients. The potential of SRI is fully realized when all the six important practices are adopted together. According to Dr. Norman Uphoff, Professor Cornell University, USA, and leading campaigner of SRI, this revolutionary innovative technology was born out of personal experience of Father Henry de Loleni at Madagascar, and not as a development of scientific research. The method has spread to more than 30 countries and replete with many success stories and now established scientific mechanisms responsible for the observed crop responses under SRI across the locations. Lesson 2. Outline of SRI practice and principles of SRI. Outline of SRI practice. The System of Rice Intensification (SRI), developed in Madagascar in 1980s, basically refers to a particular set of practices which improve plant health and yield. In view of several advantages with this method, it has caught attention of major rice-growing countries and is presently being tried as an innovative practice in several Indian states, namely Tamil Nadu, Tripura, Odisha, Punjab, West Bengal, Manipur, and Andhra Pradesh. Principles of SRI. SRI, which is relatively a new methodology, involves a set of practices for plant, soil, water, and nutrient management. It is a revolutionary technology in the sense that it tries to change traditional practices, especially with respect to water management that existed for thousands of years. The greatest potential of SRI is seen when the six important practices are adopted together. SRI principles that underlie SRI practices are more important than the practices themselves. Rice is not an aquatic plant. Although rice can survive when growing under flooded, hypoxic conditions, it does not really thrive in such a soil environment. Under continuous submergence, most of the rice plant's roots remain in the top 6 centimeters of soil, and most have degenerated by the start of the plant's reproductive phase. Rice seedlings lose much of their growth potential when transplanted beyond about 15 days of age. This potential is preserved by early transplanting in conjunction with other SRI practices. It is important to avoid trauma to seedlings, and especially to the roots during transplanting. Stresses, such as from seedlings' roots drying out, will delay the resumption of plant growth after transplanting and reduce total tillering and root development. Wider spacing of plants leads to greater root growth and accompanying tillering, provided that other favorable conditions for growth, such as soil aeration, are provided. With intact root systems, there is a positive correlation between tillering and grain filling. Soil aeration and organic matter create beneficial conditions for plant root growth and for consequent plant vigor and health. This results from having greater abundance and diversity of microbial life in the soil, helping plants resist pest and disease damage. Lesson 3. What constitutes SRI and what not to do? Lesson 4. Principles and corresponding practices of SRI. Principles and corresponding practices of SRI. The basic 6 practices include transplanting young, 8 to 12-day-old seedlings singly. Careful transplanting at shallow depth. Adoption of wider spacing, 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters. Water management to keep soil moist by alternate flooding and wetting. Inter-row weeding using rotary weeder and use organics such as FYM compost. SRI encompasses 6 basic principles which are achieved by following certain practices. Principles and corresponding practices of SRI. Lesson 5. SRI hexagon. 6 principles form the SRI hexagon, and adopted together, they have a profound effect on the growth of rice plants. See Figure 2. And found significant synergy effect was recorded among the principles. Lesson 6. What is the effect of SRI on rice plants? Effect of SRI on rice plants. When young seedlings are planted at 16 plants per square meter, the field will not look like a planted field, and usually the first time practicing farmer and his family will be shocked. The real jolt of surprise will come when the intercultivation is done with weeder is done for the first time, and they see a sudden spurt in tillering, and this amazing response of the crop continues to impress the farmer until a member of the family puts up a scarecrow type artifact in the field to ward off evil eyes. Figure 3. To achieve the principles of SRI, the agronomic practices to be followed have been modified and are completely different from currently followed practices. Module 3. Introduction of SRI in India and adoptions of the practices of SRI cultivation. At the end of this module, we will understand introduction of SRI in India, nursery and seedlings, water management in SRI, intercultivation with weeder, more organic nutrients in preference to mineral fertilizer. Lesson 1. Introduction of SRI in India. SRI was introduced in India in 2000 when researchers at the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University (TNAU) initiated experiments involving SRI principles in a collaborative project on growing rice with less water. TNAU results in 2000-2002 were followed by evaluations on farmers' fields. In 2003, a package of SRI practices was evolved and tested in 200 farmers' fields through a state government initiative to compare the performance of SRI and conventional cultivation in the Kaveri and Tamiraparani river basins. The results showed an average increase in grain yield by 1.5 tons per hectare in both basins with reduced input requirements, and even an 8% reduction in labor needed per hectare. This evaluation provided a basis for officially recommending SRI adoption to farmers in 2004. Concurrently, the State Agricultural University in Andhra Pradesh, Acharya N. G. Ranga Agricultural University, ANGRAU introduced SRI in farmers' fields during Kharif season 2003. After Angrao students saw SRI being implemented in Sri Lanka, comparison trials were conducted in all districts of the state. These results generated nationwide interest, as they showed average yield increases of 2.5 tons per hectare, 50% over conventional irrigated rice cultivation. Grain yields in SRI recorded in experiments across India. Lesson 2. Nursery and seedlings. The use of younger seedlings, 8 to 15 days old, 2.5 leaf stage, in SRI is a distinct departure from conventional cultivation where seedlings of 25 days and more are used. Recommended seedling age for transplanting in conventional cultivation is usually 1 week per month of duration of the crop, seed to seed, and thus for 105 days short duration rice, 25 days old seedlings, and for 135 days medium duration rice, 32 days old seedlings are recommended. The duration of seedling age will increase during winter season, 18 to 20 days, depending on the prevailing temperatures. Proper care has to be taken to get healthy seedlings during winter. The area required for raising nursery for hectare is only 100 square meters, which is 10 times lesser than the normal method. Seedling removal from SRI nursery. Actually, the merits of lower plant density have been known in Tamil Nadu for about a century. A report by the Royal Commission on Agriculture in India, published in 1928, states that 120,000 copies of a leaflet on single seedling method of paddy cultivation had been distributed in the Madras Presidency, which covered a huge area now subsumed within Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Karnataka states. So, at least 80 years ago, agricultural specialists in British India were already promoting single seedling rice planting. In 1911, several farmers published articles in Tamil language on single seedling planting was developed by one local farmer, while concurrently another farmer developed gaja planting with wider spacing. This gaja method employed inter-row spacing of 1.5 feet, that is 45 centimeters, with in-row spacing between single plants of 1 foot, 30 centimeters, resulting in a plant population of only 7 to 8 plants per square meter. Yield of 6,004 kilograms grain per hectare was obtained with gaja planting methods in Tanjavur district, which was 2.7 times more than obtained from the same field the previous year when using bunch planting. It is fascinating that such high yields were being obtained by farmers with their own innovations a century ago, when no chemical fertilizers were applied. Lesson 3. Water management in SRI. Although it is generally assumed that rice requires an abundant supply of water, it can be cultivated with the same supply of water as other cereals, and the distinguishing feature lies in the fact that, unlike other cereals, it can tolerate standing water or swampy conditions for its growth. Rice is not an aquatic species and does not necessarily need to be grown under inundated conditions. But there are reports that reducing the degree of flooding in rice may reduce the grain yields, primarily due to changes in crop physiology and increased weed infestation. The physiological changes in the rice plants under SRI are not confined to water management, but are a result of the synergistic effect of all the practices followed, and hence comparison with flood irrigation alone is incorrect. SRI advocates growing plants with sufficient but never excess water so that the roots do not suffocate and degenerate, and the agronomic management aims at allowing a shallow irrigation of about 2.5 centimeters when previously irrigated water has completely disappeared. A kind of alternate wetting and drying management. Photo 2 and 3. Intermittent irrigation helps to increase the root activity, which is closely related to carbon assimilation. The intercultivation with weeder done 2 to 4 times in SRI will also help to aerate the soil. Increased water productivity to the extent of 54% due to water-saving irrigation in SRI has been reported. Table 3. Exposing the soil to the air is repeatedly done in the SRI irrigation practice prevents various diseases and root rot induced by the excessive reductive conditions of the soil. SRI practicing farmers feel that it also leads to loss of unfavorable gases from the soil, so this remains to be studied. Optimum oxidizing conditions, which characterize good soil conditions, could be achieved by intermittent irrigation. Table 3. Water saving and water productivity increase in SRI. Apart from getting higher yields and using less water with SRI water management, the benefits of fuel savings in pumping groundwater and in avoiding water conflicts among farmers relying on the same source of water should be considered. Thus far, SRI farmers using the recommended irrigation methods have not observed reduced grain yields. Instead, unflooded soil conditions appear to favor increases in grain yields. Lesson 4. Intercultivation with weeder. In describing the practices of stable and high-yielding rice cultivation, Matsushima, 1980, has stated that intertillage after rooting of the transplanted seedlings and the practice of removing the soil around the base of the plant hill by hand to make the hill spread out promote tillering. Matsushima found that it is difficult to conduct this practice due to labor shortage, but felt that his desire to mechanize this practice was not realized. Now, after 2 decades, his desire has been fulfilled in SRI, where a mechanical weeder is used 3 to 4 times in between hills, which not only incorporates the weeds but also does an intercultivation operation, which results in some earthing up action also. A sudden burst of tillering is always noticed after the weeder is used. The profuse tillering in SRI is mainly because of this intercultivation operation. SRI practicing farmers feel that the pruning of the roots by the weeder has similar influence like the pruning of the shoots of guava, grapes, mango, etc. The intercultivation also results in some earthing up effect and new roots formed above the original soil level because of this. Increase in yield due to weeder use was also recorded, showing significant positive effects of intercultivation, which actively aerates the soil and indicating that among the SRI principles, weeder use may be more important than some other SRI practices. A number of modifications have been made in the design of weeder used in SRI. See Photo 4. And many farmer innovations, Photo 5, have taken place. While marginal farmers engaged their own family labor in operating the weeder, medium and large farmers face labor problems. A power-operated weeder is the most wanted one by these farmers, but a solution is still evading. Lesson 5. More organic nutrients in preference to mineral fertilizer. SRI does emphasize the importance of the soil organic matter content and of soil health. These soil characteristics will be improved by the use of organic manures, which, however, doesn't imply necessarily a complete elimination of chemical fertilizer. SRI does not emphasize organic nutrients to the exclusion of mineral fertilizer, but rather it emphasized organic fertilization in preference to mineral fertilizer. In Tamil Nadu, integrated nutrient management is recommended for SRI. Farmers who had forgotten about the use of organic manures are showing a renewed interest in them because of SRI. Applications of farmyard manure and other decomposed vegetative materials are obviously beneficial, since these enhance soil biota while improving soil structure as well as water absorption and retention. In Tamil Nadu, growing Gliricidia in bunds and fences is a recommendation that goes along with SRI, as this increases the ready availability of organic material at field level. Photo 6. Moreover, positive interactions between organic manures and chemical fertilizers are also well known. Advocating the use of organic materials of different sources to the extent this is profitable for farmers and beneficial for soil health and water quality, therefore, is just a common sense, since it broadens the number of options for farmers. Photo 7. The yield of 6 tons per hectare, recorded by the Tamil Nadu farmer about a century ago, even before the arrival of chemical fertilizers, shows that the yield potential of rice could be tapped by innovative agronomic practices. Module 4. Effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil and special effects of SRI. At the end of this module, we will understand effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil, profuse tillering. New roots due to earthing up by weeder and leaves remain green till harvest. Lodging resistance of SRI crop. More than 100 panicles from single seedling and large panicle with more than 350 grains. Prevention of early senescence of the flag leaves and early maturity of the most of the cultivars. Lesson 1. Effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil. What are the effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil? Young seedlings, less than 15-day-old, grown from a garden-like raised bed nursery are stronger and keep the soil particles intact when removed. This not only avoids transplanting shock, but also aids in quick establishment and retains the potential for profuse tillering and strong root growth. Further, young rice seedlings of less than 15 days old with 4 phyllocrions are reported to put forth large number of tillers and dense root system. Katayama, 1951. Transplanting at a wider spacing, 16 hills per square meter. Provide ample light intensity and soil volume, which encourages luxurious growth of roots and tillers supporting synergistically. For example, about 60% of photosynthetes formed in the shoots are translocated to roots for its growth, which pervasively explore soil for water and nutrient to supply to the aerial parts. Wider spacing also creates favorable microclimatic conditions for plant growth, similar to that as border edge effect. But the uniqueness of SRI is that such phenomenal growth is seen uniformly all through the field, which more than compensates for low plant density. Rice plants grown without the use of inorganic fertilizers and biocides are vigorous, strong, and less susceptible to pests and disease incidents, and are slow in senescence. Accumulation of nitrogen and dry matter production is greater in vegetative organs of rice plants grown under SRI as compared to those which are grown under traditional method. Remobilization or partition of stored photosynthetes from the vegetative organs is 1.4 to 3 times, 66.9% more with SRI practice. Uptake of nutrients as well as their use efficiencies are also favored by SRI cultivation. Good water management practice of keeping the rice soil moist but not continuously flooded contributes immensely to the growth of larger roots in aerobic soil environment, while hypoxic conditions prevalent under continuously submerged condition inhibit and degenerate. Root growth. Nearly 78% roots are known to degenerate by flowering stage in flooded soil, which is almost prevented under SRI. Healthy and vigorous root system is the magical effect of SRI. Lesson 2. Effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil. 2. What are the effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil? The aerenchyma tissues formed in response to prevailing hypoxic conditions impairs the capacity of the plants for nutrient uptake. In contrast, rice grown under SRI conditions does not form aerenchyma and avoids root degeneration. SRI conditions permit more oxygen and nitrogen fluxes to reach rhizosphere, which favors higher microbial activity and nitrogen fixation. Soil aeration under SRI prevents intense soil reduction and reduces the buildup of toxic concentrations of ferrous iron, which is a major problem in acid soil. Rotary weeding churns up the surface soil, removes and incorporates weeds, while aerating the top 10 centimeters of soil layer. This ideally benefits biological nitrogen fixation and nitrogen mineralization. Addition of organic manures such as FYM and compost or including weed biomass enriches soil with carbon, which triggers biological processes by diverse microflora in the soil and also promotes plant growth, promoting rhizoflora, PGPR. Lesson 3. Profuse tillering. New roots due to earthing up by weeder and leaves remain green till harvest. Photos of profuse tillering. New roots due to earthing up by weeder and leaves remain green till harvest. Lesson 4. Lodging resistance of SRI crop. More than 100 panicles from single seedling and large panicle with more than 350 grains. Lesson 5. Prevention of early senescence of the flag leaves and early maturity of the most of the cultivars. Module 5. Research experiences of SRI across the country. At the end of this module, we will understand response of SRI method on grain yield across the locations, varietal response to SRI, nursery area and seed saving and saving in water, root and shoot dry mass, nutrient use efficiency and status of soil available nutrients, influence of SRI on microbial development and influence of SRI on incidence of insect pests, reduction of the duration of the crop, and socio-economic studies and frontline demonstrations. Lesson 1. Response of SRI method on grain yield across the locations. The results of MLT clearly indicated that the performance of SRI varied from location to location, indicating that response of SRI is location specific. SRI recorded higher yield than ICM and ST at half of the locations, that is 10 to 12. SRI and ICM were comparable in 5-6 locations and found promising over ST. The mean yield advantage of SRI over ST ranged from 7 to 20% irrespective of soil and locations across the years. Figure 14 RI performed consistently superior across 4 years. Table 6. This increase in grain yield under SRI could be attributed to profuse tillering, improved soil aeration achieved through the soil disturbance by cono weeder operation, in addition to effective weed suppression. Tyagarajan et al., 2002 and 2005. Table 6. Performance of SRI in different locations across India. Lesson 2. Varietal response to SRI, nursery area, and seed saving and saving in water. Varietal response to SRI. Contrary to the perception that SRI method is genotype neutral, significant differences were observed between the varieties under SRI. In general, it was observed that hybrids, 4 to 42% yield advantage, performed better over the varieties, 2 to 17% under SRI as against ST. The hybrids KRH2, HR1, 1 to 6, and PHB 71 and DRRH2 performed better as compared to the varieties. Since seed requirement is quite low in SRI, this could be the best method for cultivating hybrids, whose seed cost is relatively higher compared to inbreds. Most of the varieties generally performed better, but there are reports that some varieties perform much better than others. Therefore, to identify the response of different genotypes to SRI practice at different locations, locally popular varieties of different duration were tested at 16 locations. Results indicated that there was a significant differential response of genotypes to SRI method of cultivation. Based on the mean over the locations and among the group of cultivars, the performance of late and medium duration varieties and hybrids was found to be better as compared to early duration varieties at most of the locations. It is imperative that, under SRI method, due to wider spacing, those varieties which have high tillering ability perform better as compared to the shy tillering ones. Nursery area and seed saving. As a result of adopting wider spacing and planting of a single seedling or hill at a spacing of 25 by 25 centimeters, there would be only 16 hills per square meter, as against 44 per square meter or more in the conventional method. Sufficient nursery required for 1 hectare under SRI could be raised using just 5 kg seed, as against 20 to 30 kg per hectare under ST. In case of hybrids, 66% seed cost could be saved by adopting SRI method. The significant seed saving will promote seed multiplication rate, purity of seed, single seedling planting, and faster availability or spread of released varieties. Further, the nursery area for SRI method is just 100 square meter per hectare, which is 1/10 of area required for ST. There will be reduction in the cost of nursery preparation, labor saving, and of inputs for nursery, mainly water, which is scarce during the period of nursery raising in both the seasons. Lesson 3. Root and shoot dry mass. Of the 3 cultivation methods, ST, SRI, and SRI method with organic inputs, Eco-SRI, the plots of SRI rice had highest shoot mass, mean of all 3 cultivars, root mass, and root length density. For the root length density, DRRH2 had biggest density with SRI and lowest in control, while Shanti had highest values in ST and lowest in Eco-SRI, Table 8. Similar results are reported by Barrison, 2002. The root system was much larger in SRI, and root pulling resistance, RPR, per clump was more than double for SRI plants. Since SRI clumps are single plants and ST grown rice is transplanted with 3 or more seedlings per hill, per plant resistance is at least 6 times greater in SRI. Table 8. Water productivity as influenced by conventional versus SRI method. Mean of Kharif and Rabi. Shoot and root oven dry weight, gram per cubic meter. Root length density, meter per cubic meter, in top 30 centimeter soil profile at vegetative growth stage. Lesson 4. Nutrient use efficiency and status of soil available nutrients. The study conducted at DRR Farm, Ramchandrapuram, on sandy clay loam soil with 3 varieties and 3 systems of crop establishment. SRI, Eco-SRI, nutrients supplied through organics, and ST indicated that SRI and ST were on par and significantly superior to Eco-SRI with respect to nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus uptake in both the Kharif and Rabi seasons. Though the nutrients uptake remained the same, nutrient use efficiency was marginally higher in SRI by 8, and 12% for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium respectively during Kharif and 5% for nitrogen during Rabi, compared to ST, figure 5. The amount of accumulation of nutrients that leads to more vigorous plant growth and higher yields is due to changes in capacities of the plant itself, particularly its root system. Barrison, 2002, found considerably higher concentration of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the foliage at late stage, reflecting better uptake of nutrients at later stages in SRI method. Soil analysis data indicated similar available nutrient status in SRI and ST after 2 seasons of experimentation. Thus, SRI resulted in higher productivity during Kharif, similar nutrient uptake, and marginally higher nutrient use efficiency without depleting the soil available nutrients compared to standard transplanting after 2 seasons. Table 9. Table 9. Soil properties after 2 seasons as influenced by different crop cultivation methods. Lesson 5. Influence of SRI on microbial development and influence of SRI on incidence of insect pests. Influence of SRI on microbial development. The dehydrogenase activity, a measure of microbial activity in the soil, was estimated at 2 stages of crop growth in sandy clay loam soils, comparing different methods of crop establishment, indicated that the dehydrogenase activity did not differ at sowing. 161 to 172. However, at vegetative growth stages, dehydrogenase activity was significantly higher in SRI over ST as well as eco-SRI. Table 10. The amount of organics used in eco-SRI is higher, but the aeration provided with cono-weeding might have had a significant effect on improvement of dehydrogenase activity in SRI. Magdoff and Bolden, 1970, reported that BNF activity is greatly increased when aerobic and anaerobic soil horizons are mixed together. SRI water management practices and recommended weeding with a cono weeder would contribute to the juxtaposition of aerobic vis-a-vis saturated soil. Nitrogen fixing bacteria are prolific at the interface between these two soil conditions. Detailed trials conducted in farmers' fields indicated no clear trend on microbial development. MBC, MBN, and dehydrogenase activity in rainy season mainly attributed to poor water management. However, SRI plots generally had higher 7 to 25%, MBC, MBN, and dehydrogenase activity only in post-rainy season, as water management and controlled irrigation is practiced only during the post-rainy season. Kranti, 2005. Table 10. Dehydrogenase activity. Microgram TPF per gram soil per 24 hours at sowing and at vegetative growth in the experiment. Influence of SRI on incidence of insect pests. Field experiments were conducted in dry and wet seasons in 2005 and 2006 at Directorate of Rice Research, Ramchandrapuram Farm. The pest incidence data indicated that yellow stem borer damage was high at all stages of crop growth period, and its damage, dead hearts, was low in Shanti grown under SRI, 7%, as compared to ST, 11.4%. At reproductive stage, the damage, white ear heads, was high in SRI, 28.3%, than conventional method, 21.2%. The study through survey, SRI Adopted Village, indicated that SRI had low pest incidence, resulting in lower or no pesticide application. The benefit-cost ratio was higher for SRI method, 1.77 and 1.76, in 2 villages of Warangal district, Andhra Pradesh, than conventional method. Padmavati et al., 2008. Similar results of low pest incidence in rice grown under SRI due to vigorous and healthy growth of plant coupled with wider spacing has been reported by Gaspanillo, 2002, Ghani, 2004, Ravi et al., 2007. Total abundance and species richness was high in SRI as compared to conventional method. Among various gills, natural enemies were found more in SRI than conventional method of rice cultivation. Lesson 6. reduction of the duration of the crop, and socio-economic studies and frontline demonstrations. Reduction of the duration of the crop. Field experiments conducted for assessing the potential benefit of SRI, especially in terms of reducing the duration of the crop. Three methods of crop establishment, SRI, SRI Eco, and ST, were compared with three promising high-yielding varieties. Two varieties and a hybrid indicated that a mean reduction of days to 50% flowering was 11 days across seasons and varieties, and also maturity of the crop. Further, SRI method recorded higher grain yield in both the seasons, 1.4 tons per hectare, with reduced duration of crop and helped to cultivate succeeding crop timely. Due to reduction in duration and increase in yields, SRI recorded a higher per day productivity to an extent of 9.4 kilograms per hectare per day and a 21.7 kilogram per hectare per day over ST during wet seasons of 2006 and 2007 respectively. Table 11. Similar trend of reduction in growth duration and increase in per day productivity under SRI have also been reported earlier. Ramesh Babu 2007 and Subbarao 2007. This also helps to reduce the water requirement and facilitates to avoid water stress, especially rice grown in tail-end areas. Table 11. Per day productivity of rice as influenced by methods of crop cultivation. Socio-economic studies and frontline demonstrations. Studies during the past 2-3 years have clearly indicated the superiority of SRI as a sustainable method of rice cultivation. Participant farmers could perceive a unique opportunity in SRI for increasing their income through higher productivity while saving on cost of seed, chemicals, water. Experiences with SRI conducted across several types of soils indicated that SRI may not be suitable in saline sodic soils due to less tolerance of rice at early seedling stages in these soil types. Module 6. Benefits of SRI adoption. At the end of this module, we will understand cost effective in every way, higher yields, other benefits of SRI, problems in adoption of SRI technology, conclusions. Lesson 1. Cost effective in every way. The system of rice intensification improves yields with less water, less seed, and less chemical inputs than most conventional methods of rice cultivation. This means that the returns of inputs are higher, making the method potentially more profitable than most of the traditional methods. Initially, it does require significantly more labor, mainly for preparing land, transplanting young seedlings, and weeding. Most SRI farmers have found that as they get to know the methods better and gain confidence in them, their pace of work speeds up, and SRI actually becomes labor saving. An assessment with farmers showed that for conventional planting, 45 to 75 laborers were used, while for SRI, 22 to 48 laborers were used, showing an average labor reduction of 42%. Farmers using SRI methods were found to be comparatively more efficient than those employing conventional methods under researcher-managed fields. The average levels of technical, allocative, and economic efficiencies are 92%, 76%, and 70% respectively for SRI farms compared to 73%, 35%, and 25% for conventional rice farms. Higher allocative efficiency under SRI reflects the ability of choosing optimal input levels for given factor prices. Palanisamy et al. 2008. SRI could contribute to job creation in rural areas. It is a different matter that SRI has become popular more for the obvious overall productivity gains in land, labor, water, and capital. Lesson 2. Higher yields. SRI improves the productivity of land, labor, water, and capital used in rice cultivation. Implementation of SRI has helped improve the yield of local varieties by between 6 and 8 tons per hectare. With improved management, hybrid varieties have yielded between 10 and 12 tons per hectare under SRI. Often, a 20 to 40% increase in yield compared to that under conventional methods is observed in SRI. However, the actual yield increases depend on how well farmers practice SRI. Table 4 shows the synergistic effect of SRI and also the effect of missing one of the principles. SRI practices of young seedling, single seedling, wider spacing, and intermittent irrigation together brought an increase in yield of 48.8% when compared to conventional cultivation. It could also be seen that SRI without mechanical weeding resulted lowest increase in yield, 20.1%, showing that it is very important. Missing any one of the principles reduces the synergistic effect. The individual effect of SRI principles could vary in different locations. Table 4. Effect of the SRI components on grain yield of rice. SRI improves the productivity of land, labor, water, and capital used in rice cultivation. Lesson 3. Other benefits of SRI. Nursery area to plant 1 hectare reduced from 800 square meters to 100 square meters. Seed requirement reduced from 30 to 60 kgs to 5 to 7.5 kgs. Nursery maintenance reduced from 25 to 30 days to 10 to 14 days. Nursery costs reduced by 68%. Seedling pulling cost reduced from 800 rupees to 150 rupees. Labor requirement for planting reduced from 60 to 35. Labor requirement for weeding reduced by 25 to 30%. Saving in water, electricity for pumping, and labor for irrigating. Lodging reduced. Rat damage almost nil. Early maturity up to 10 days. Up to 30 to 50 panicles per hill from single seedling. Up to 150 to 300 grains per panicle. Grain yield increased on an average by 1.5 tons. Straw yield increased on an average by 2.6 tons. Higher net income. Known shide tillering varieties produce higher number of tillers. Good panicles from the SRI crop could be handpicked for the seed requirement of next crop and helps in quality seed production. Higher yields, 7.5 ton per hectare, obtained even in coastal saline soils of Nagapattinam district, Tamil Nadu. Higher millings outturn, providing healthy food and environmental protection due to non-use of inorganic fertilizer and biocides. Reduced crop duration due to absence of transplanting shock. Lesson 4. Problems in adopting of SRI technology. Some of the SRI practices, such as planting young seedling in shallow depth, raising nursery, may require skills and more labor, especially in the initial stages of adoption. SRI cannot be adopted everywhere. It may not be suitable in command areas where water release is highly uncertain and in lowlands under uncontrolled water situations, especially in Kharif season. Feedback from farmers indicated certain problems which need to be addressed for improving the efficiency of the technology and for its wider acceptance. While appreciating the multiple roles of cono weeder in SRI, farmers felt the need for mechanized multi-row weeders that can be repaired, fabricated locally to reduce drudgery and cover more area per unit time. The adoption level of various practices of SRI cultivation differed. Similarly, use of organic manure, FIM, and compost was also not strictly adhered to. Uniformly, perhaps, due to non availability of the material, which suggests for educate and encouraging the farmers to prepare on farm from the wastes to overcome such constraints. It was also observed that even with partial adoption of some of the SRI practices, there was improvement in grain yield, about 25%. The take home lesson born out of observation is that farmers can still improve rice productivity substantially. All the recommended SRI practices are adopted in full. As the cultivation of SRI is generally cost effective, it is thought to be more suited for small and marginal farmers. The present study, however, show that the technology has the potential to be practiced by small, marginal, as well as larger farmers with high economic returns. The methodology appears to be scale neutral, which can be adopted by all the farmers with equal success. SRI is reported to be in practice in more than 40 countries and in major rice producing countries like India, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The governments are actively promoting it, though with different degree. There are several SRI virtual groups, communities, and farmers' associations and networks functioning in India, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, Nepal, Madagascar, Mali, Latin America. The electronic exchanges taking place on SRI is something unique. A large number of civil societies in India have determined initiatives to help poor rice farmers with SRI. This kind of movement is never heard of in the past. Heads of national and provincial or state governments taking personal interest in SRI is not uncommon. Many farmers in India and elsewhere are still experimenting with SRI. Since it does not involve seed-based technology, farmers find it easy to adopt the method. Some innovate to adapt the method to suit local conditions. SRI offers unlimited opportunities for exploration and innovation for local adoption in most of the ecosystems. The challenge for those mandated to popularize and promote it lies in the adoption of extension methodologies. Since SRI is still evolving, scientists should examine farmers' outcomes and experiments with an open mind so as to contribute to experts' overall understanding of the intricacies of the method. Like any scientific experiment, some of the farmers' SRI experiments might not result in successful outcomes. They need to appreciate the farmers' willingness to experiment with the adoption of new technologies, including SRI. In India, interest in SRI started just 8 years ago, and already as many as 2 million farmers are growing their rice with all or most of the recommended SRI crop management practices on about 1.5 million hectares distributed across more than 300 districts of the country. Lesson 5. Conclusions. The basic principle of SRI cultivation has been that rice plants do best when their roots are vigorous, young seedlings are transplanted at shallow depth and wider spacing, soil is kept well aerated and rich with diverse microorganisms. SRI differs from normal flooded rice in 1. Transplanting of 8 to 10-day-old seedlings, 2. Wider spacing, 3. Reduced use of water by avoiding continuous submergence, and 4. Use of more compost and organic manure. SRI has been claimed to result in phenomenal increase in grain yield as much as 2 to 4-fold, save water by 50% or more, besides saving on seed and fertilizer cost using only fraction of the quantity otherwise recommended. SRI is also claimed as variety independent system. While enthusiastic proponents of SRI have unsubstantiated overblown claims, cynical conservatives have turned down these claims without even seriously testing them. One of the critical claims of SRI system is water saving. Though in our studies, irrigation schedule was strictly followed as prescribed, which led to considerable saving in water, quantitative data on this parameter were not collected. Studies now in progress are planned to generate these data. Other independent studies at DRR in clay soil indicated a saving of 20 to 29% in irrigation water with intermittent flooding, which improved the water use efficiency by 13 to 28%, depending on season, and nutrient management. DRR 2004 and 2006. Saving on seed cost was evident from the fact that only 5 kg seed per hectare were used for SRI treatment, as against 30 to 40 kgs for normal transplanting. Preliminary studies on soil samples from farmers' fields showed substantial differences in soil microbiological, soil biological, and soil chemical parameters under SRI system as compared with normal submerged cultivation. Rupela 2006. How critical are these factors in yield enhancement are being studied in collaborative studies with ICRISAT at Hyderabad. Based on the experience, SRI appears to be more promising in terms of higher grain yield, although gains observed were genotype and location specific. Further studies are required to confirm these results, and more collaborative efforts are essential to make SRI a promising, viable technology for future rice production and making adoptable in large areas and with vast farm families. Module 7. So far, what we have learned, by now you're able to develop comprehension about system of rice intensification cultivation. We have developed various insights and appreciate the need for e-learning course on System of Rice Intensification Cultivation. Understood various topics like rice production scenario in India, SRI history, water and irrigated rice, per capita water availability in selected countries, SRI principles and practices. What is system of rice intensification? What is saving potential of SRI? Outline of SRI practice, principles of SRI. What constitutes SRI and what not to do? Principles and corresponding practices of SRI. SRI hexagon. What is the effect of SRI on rice plants? Introduction of SRI in India. Adoptions of the practices of SRI cultivation. Nursery and seedlings. Water management in SRI. Intercultivation with weeder. More organic nutrients in preference to mineral fertilizer. Effects of SRI practices on plant growth and soil. Special effects of SRI. Profuse tillering. New roots due to earthing up by weeder. Leaves remain green till harvest. Lodging resistance of SRI crop. More than 100 panicles from single seedling. Large panicle with more than 350 grains. Prevention of early senescence of the flag leaves. Early maturity of the most of the cultivars. Research experiences of SRI across the country. Response of SRI method on grain yield across the locations. Varietal response to SRI. Nursery area and seed saving and saving in water. Root and shoot dry mass. Nutrient use efficiency and status of soil available nutrients. Influence of SRI on microbial development. Influence of SRI on incidence of insect pests. Reduction of the duration of the crop. Socio-economic studies and frontline demonstrations. Benefits of SRI adoption. Cost effective in every way. higher yields. Other benefits of SRI: problems in adoption of SRI technology, and conclusions.